The cold, sterile conference chamber hummed with an underlying tension as Li Jun stood before the alien delegation. His hands were relaxed, his posture calm, a stark contrast to the rigid metallic forms of the extraterrestrial representatives. Kang, the lead alien ambassador, had 3 eyes that shifted colors with each passing moment, a biological indicator of emotional states that humans had spent years studying. Right now, those eyes flickered between deep purple and an alarming crimson, suggesting a mix of curiosity and potential aggression. Humanity's history suggests a violent species, Kang stated, his translator rendering the words in perfect, clinical English. Your planet's records show countless conflicts, wars, and territorial disputes. Li Jun smiled. Not a provocative smile, but one of genuine understanding. He knew this moment was critical. First contact wasn't just about words, but about perception. Conflicts happened, Jun responded, but our greatest achievement has never been winning wars. It's been understanding why they start. The alien delegation shifted. Their communication networks were rapidly processing his statement, searching for hidden meanings, potential threats, diplomatic traps. Hana Kim, standing slightly behind Jun, held a small device. It wasn't a weapon, but a sophisticated psychological mapping tool. Years of human research had gone into creating technologies that could read emotional landscapes more accurately than traditional diplomatic protocols. The device began scanning the room, creating invisible waves of psychological data. It wasn't just measuring words, but intent, emotional undertones, potential conflict triggers. Kang's eyes now swirled with a greenish-blue hue, confusion mixed with emerging respect. Humans were different. They weren't presenting military capabilities or technological superiority. They were offering understanding. We know conflict is often born from misunderstanding, Jun continued. Not from inherent desire to destroy, but from fear, from lack of communication. A holographic representation emerged between them. It wasn't a map of territories or military strategies. Instead, it showed intricate human social networks, complex emotional pathways, methods of conflict resolution that didn't involve violence. The alien delegates leaned forward. Their own civilizations had sophisticated technologies, advanced weaponry, complex communication systems. But this was something entirely different. Jun wasn't just presenting information. He was telling a story, humanity's story, a narrative of a species that had learned, often painfully, that understanding was more powerful than confrontation. The psychological mapping device hummed softly. It was translating not just language, but emotional frequencies. It showed how humans could predict potential conflicts before they erupted, how they could navigate complex emotional terrains with remarkable precision. We don't seek to conquer, Jun said. We seek to understand. Kang's 3 eyes now stabilized into a calm blue, the color of trust, of potential cooperation. Hana stepped forward, her movements deliberate and calm. She activated another projection, showing human conflict resolution techniques developed over centuries, mediation strategies, psychological frameworks, communication methodologies that transformed potential wars into diplomatic discussions. The alien delegation was no longer seeing humans as another potential threat. They were witnessing a species that had transformed its own violent history into a sophisticated understanding of coexistence. Interesting, Kang finally said, the translator rendering the word with a complexity that suggested deep, multi-layered appreciation. Li Jun knew this was more than a diplomatic meeting. This was a moment that could reshape galactic interactions, not through force, but through understanding. The conference chamber, once cold and impersonal, now seemed alive with potential. Humanity wasn't presenting itself as a military power, but as a civilization that had learned the most challenging lesson of all, how to truly communicate. As the meeting continued, the psychological mapping device continued its silent work, bridging not just linguistic gaps but fundamental differences in perception, showing that true communication went far beyond words. The research facility hummed with quiet intensity. Park Sung-min stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers dancing across translucent screens filled with complex psychological data. The P7 artificial intelligence system flickered to life beside him, its soft blue light casting gentle shadows across the room. Alien researchers from multiple star systems watched carefully. They had come to understand what made humans so uniquely different in their approach to conflict resolution. What they saw both fascinated and confused them. Communication is not about words, Sung-min explained, his voice calm and measured. It's about understanding the space between words. The hologram shifted, showing intricate networks of human interactions. Lines of communication twisted and transformed, showing how humans could predict and redirect potential conflicts before they even began to form. It wasn't magic. It was a complex system of psychological understanding that took generations to develop. Piece 7 began projecting scenarios. Each simulation showed how a potential conflict could be transformed through strategic communication. Where other civilizations might respond with aggression, humans introduced empathy, understanding, and creative problem-solving. An alien researcher, named Zorro, leaned forward, his crystalline body shifting colors with intense concentration. Your species does not eliminate conflict, he observed. You transform it. Sung-min nodded. The hologram now displayed historical human conflicts, wars, disputes, cultural misunderstandings. But instead of showing the conflicts themselves, it showed the resolutions, the moments of understanding that emerged from seemingly impossible situations. The P7 system began breaking down human communication strategies. It wasn't just about words, but about understanding emotional landscapes. How tone, body language, cultural context, and psychological state all played crucial roles in communication. Humans developed these techniques through centuries of complex social interactions, Sung-min explained. We learned that understanding is more powerful than confrontation. The alien researchers watched in silent amazement. The human approach was nothing like their own rigid communication protocols. Where they saw conflict as a problem to be eliminated, humans saw it as an opportunity for deeper understanding. Another projection showed how human mediators worked. They didn't just solve problems, they transformed relationships. They could take groups with seemingly impossible differences and find common ground, create new ways of understanding. Piece 7 highlighted a particularly complex scenario. Two groups with centuries of historical conflict, brought together not through force but through carefully designed communication strategies. Step by step, the hologram showed how understanding replaced hatred, how empathy could rebuild what conflict had destroyed. Zorro's crystalline form pulsed with a soft green light, a sign of deep intellectual excitement. Your species does not fight, he said. Your species negotiates. Sung-min smiled. It wasn't a simple process. Humans had learned these skills through painful experiences, through understanding that violence solved nothing, that true progress came from communication. The P7 system continued its demonstration. It showed how human psychological mapping could predict potential conflicts before they emerged. Not through invasive technologies, but through deep understanding of human behavior, cultural contexts, and emotional landscapes. Alien researchers took notes, their communication devices capturing every detail. They were witnessing something revolutionary, a completely different approach to resolving complex social and interstellar challenges. Conflict is not a problem to be eliminated, Sung-min said. It's an opportunity to understand. The hologram continued to dance with complex networks of human interactions. Each line, each connection represented a moment of potential understanding, a bridge between different perspectives. As the presentation concluded, the alien researchers sat in profound silence. They had come expecting to see military strategies, technological superiority. Instead, they had witnessed something far more powerful, a sophisticated approach to understanding that went beyond traditional conflict resolution. Piece 7 powered down, its blue light fading. but the impact of its demonstration would resonate far beyond this single moment, slowly transforming how different civilizations would approach communication and conflict in the future. Yunji stood at the center of the galactic diplomatic chamber, her presence both calm and electric. The room was filled with representatives from dozens of different civilizations, each watching her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. On the massive screen behind her, a complex web of communication strategies began to unfold. This was more than a presentation. It was a revolution in how civilizations would interact. "Conflict is not a problem," she began, her voice clear and confident. "It's a language waiting to be understood." The alien delegates shifted in their seats. Some had traveled thousands of light years to witness this moment. They had heard rumors about human diplomatic techniques, but nothing could have prepared them for what was about to be revealed. The holographic display showed intricate patterns of communication. It wasn't just about words or technology. It was about understanding the deepest motivations behind potential conflicts. Where other civilizations saw barriers, humans saw opportunities for connection. A Trillonian ambassador, his skin shifting between metallic blues and greens, leaned forward. "Explain how you can prevent conflicts before they begin," he challenged. Yunji smiled. With a simple gesture, the hologram transformed. It began showing complex scenarios, potential conflict points that would have traditionally erupted into war, now smoothly navigated through sophisticated communication strategies. The Diplomatic Harmony Protocol, as it was called, was unlike anything the galactic community had ever seen. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about finding common ground, understanding different perspectives, and creating solutions that benefited all parties. Piece 7, the advanced AI system, began demonstrating practical applications. It showed how human mediators could take groups with seemingly impossible differences and create meaningful dialogue. Cultural misunderstandings that would have traditionally led to conflict were now transformed into opportunities for mutual understanding. "We don't eliminate conflict," Yunji explained. "We transform it." The room grew silent. The holographic display continued to show layer after layer of human diplomatic innovations. It wasn't about military might or technological superiority. It was about the most complex technology of all, human understanding. A Crystarian delegate, whose crystalline body reflected the holographic lights, spoke up. "How is this possible?" she asked, genuine wonder in her voice. Yunji walked closer to the delegation. She activated a personal device that began translating not just words, but emotional undertones. The device showed how communication was more than language. It was about understanding the deeper motivations behind each interaction. The Diplomatic Harmony Protocol revealed itself as a multi-dimensional approach to conflict resolution. It combined psychological mapping, cultural understanding, emotional intelligence, and creative problem-solving in ways no civilization had ever conceived. The hologram now showed historical human conflicts, wars, disputes, cultural misunderstandings. But instead of showing the conflicts themselves, it illustrated the moments of breakthrough, the instances where understanding replaced confrontation. "Every conflict," Yunji said, "is an opportunity to create something new." The alien delegates began to understand. This wasn't just a diplomatic technique. It was a fundamental reimagining of how civilizations could interact. Where traditional approaches saw conflict as a zero-sum game, humans saw it as a chance for mutual growth. Piece 7 continued its demonstration, showing scenario after scenario. Potential wars were averted. Long-standing tensions dissolved. Complex cultural misunderstandings transformed into moments of profound connection. The Trillonian ambassador's skin now glowed with a soft purple light, a sign of deep respect and understanding. "You are not just preventing conflicts," he said. "You are creating a new way of existing." As the presentation concluded, the Galactic Diplomatic Chamber felt different. Something fundamental had changed. The alien delegates were no longer seeing humans as just another species. They were witnessing a revolutionary approach to communication and understanding. Yunji stepped back, allowing the implications of the diplomatic harmony protocol to sink in. This was more than a diplomatic strategy. It was a new way of thinking about existence itself. Huang Jiwu watched carefully as the first true test of the harmony protocol began. The massive communication center hummed with quiet energy. Screens, flickering with data from a dozen different star systems. 3 weeks earlier, 2 alien civilizations had been on the brink of total war. The Meridian Cluster and the Orion Confederation had centuries of conflict, generations of hatred built into their collective memories. Traditional diplomatic approaches had failed repeatedly. Now, everything would change. The Harmony Protocol wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a technology in the traditional sense. It was a complex system of understanding, developed through generations of human psychological research. Jiwu's team had spent months preparing. They had mapped every cultural nuance, every historical tension between the two civilizations. More importantly, they had created a communication framework that could transform conflict into dialogue. On the primary screen, representatives from both civilizations sat in a carefully designed communication chamber. The room itself was neutral. No symbols of power, no traditional diplomatic barriers, just a space for genuine understanding. Piece 7 began its intricate work. The AI system wasn't just translating words. It was analyzing emotional frequencies, cultural contexts, hidden motivations that traditional diplomacy would have missed. The Meridian representative spoke first. His species had crystalline bodies that changed color with emotional states. Right now, he was a deep, angry red. "We have suffered generations of injustice," he declared. The Orion representative's communication device translated not just the words, but the emotional undertones. The Harmony Protocol revealed the deep pain behind the statement. Centuries of perceived oppression, of lost communities, of unresolved trauma. Jiwu watched carefully. This was the moment where traditional diplomacy would have failed, where arguments would have escalated, where old wounds would have been reopened. Instead, the communication system began its work. Piece 7 started, presenting shared historical moments, not the conflicts but the times when both civilizations had shown compassion, had demonstrated potential for understanding. Small moments of connection that had been lost in generations of conflict. The representatives began to change. The Meridian's crystalline body shifted from angry red to a softer, more contemplative blue. The Orion representative's communication patterns became less defensive, more open. "We do not seek to dismiss your pain," the protocol suggested, presenting a framework of mutual recognition. "We seek to understand it." Hours passed. What would have traditionally been a hostile diplomatic meeting transformed into something entirely different. The Harmony Protocol wasn't about winning or losing. It was about finding a path forward that acknowledged everyone's experiences. Jiwu noted how the communication changed, from accusations to understanding, from hatred to recognition of shared experiences. The protocol didn't erase historical conflicts. It provided a way to process them constructively. By the second day, something remarkable happened. The representatives began to see each other not as enemies, but as beings with complex histories, with genuine pain, with potential for understanding. Piece 7 continued its subtle work, creating bridges where traditional diplomacy would have built walls. It showed how conflicts were rarely about the surface-level arguments but about deeper, unresolved emotional landscapes. On the third day, something unprecedented occurred. The Meridian and Orion representatives proposed a joint historical research project, not to assign blame but to truly understand their shared history. Jiwu allowed himself a small smile. This was the true power of the Harmony Protocol, not elimination of conflict but transformation. The communication center erupted in quiet celebration. The team knew they had done something extraordinary. They had shown that understanding was possible, that communication could be a powerful tool of peace. As the diplomatic session concluded, the screen showed something remarkable. The representatives were no longer sitting on opposite sides of the room. They were standing together, their body languages suggesting genuine connection. The Harmony Protocol had done what generations of traditional diplomacy had failed to achieve. It had created a path to understanding. Kim Seok-hyun stood on the central platform of the Galactic Assembly, representing humanity in a moment that would change interstellar history forever. Behind him, holographic displays showed the remarkable transformation that had occurred across hundreds of star systems. 15 years had passed since the first implementation of the Harmony Protocol. The galaxy looked completely different. Where conflict once defined interstellar relationships, now understanding prevailed. Civilizations that had been enemies for generations were now collaborating, sharing resources, exploring the universe together. The alien delegates watched Seok-hyun carefully. Humans were no longer seen as a young, aggressive species. They were recognized as the architects of a new kind of peace. "We did not conquer," Seok-hyun began, his voice calm and clear. "We listened." The holographic displays behind him showed incredible transformations. Entire star systems that had been on the brink of war now shared scientific research. Cultural exchanges replaced military confrontations. Complex communication technologies had replaced weapons. Peace 7, now integrated into the Galactic Communication Network, demonstrated how humanity's approach had fundamentally changed interstellar interactions. It wasn't about eliminating differences, but about understanding them. An elder from the Crystalline Confederation spoke. Her body shifted with colors of deep respect. "Humanity has shown us that conflict is not a problem to be destroyed," she said. "It is an opportunity to grow." The assembly chamber fell silent. The weight of this statement was profound. Seok-hyun activated a final demonstration. The holographic display showed a timeline of galactic conflicts before and after human intervention. The difference was stark. Where there were once constant wars, now there were complex networks of communication, mutual understanding, and collaborative problem-solving. Peace 7 began showing specific examples. A dispute between the Meridian Cluster and the Orion Confederation, once bitter enemies, now resulted in a joint scientific mission. Another projection showed how a potential resource conflict was transformed into a mutual exploration project. "We learned," Seok-hyun explained, "that understanding is more powerful than force." The alien delegates represented civilizations thousands of years older than humanity. They had seen countless conflicts, countless attempts at peace. But this was different. This was not about diplomatic tricks or temporary truces. This was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact. The holographic display continued to show humanity's journey, from a species with a violent history to the primary architects of galactic peace. Not through military might, but through an unprecedented ability to communicate, to understand, to transform potential conflicts. Peace 7 highlighted the key innovation. The ability to see conflicts not as problems to be eliminated, but as opportunities for deeper understanding. Each potential conflict became a chance for growth, for connection, for creating something new. The Crystalline Confederation representative moved forward. Her movement suggested something between respect and wonder. "You have changed everything," she said. Seok-hyun understood the profound nature of this moment. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had shown the galaxy a new way of existing. The assembly chamber began to transform. Delegates from different star systems, who would have traditionally sat in separate sections, now began to mix. Conversations started, not formal diplomatic exchanges, but genuine attempts to understand each other. As the presentation concluded, something remarkable happened. The alien delegates began applauding, not a traditional gesture for many of their species, but a spontaneous expression of genuine respect. Peace 7 captured the moment. This was more than a diplomatic achievement. This was a fundamental shift in how intelligent species could interact. Seok-hyun looked out over the assembly. Humanity had done something extraordinary. They had shown that the most powerful technology was not a weapon but understanding. The galaxy would never be the same.